Hey y'all, it's Betsy with Happily Ever After, etc. and welcome back to another resin and Cricut project. Today we are going to be making a really cute round resin slash Cricut sign. It is a welcome or gather sign. You can technically customize it to say any words you like, whether you want it to say welcome or the Smiths. It can go on your front door. I have mine in a little wall gallery kind of display, but it is made of basswood, so we are going to be cutting our round basswood pieces out with our Cricut. You need something that will cut wood for this. I use my Maker 3, and then we will be gluing those pieces together, pouring our resin into the portion we cut out, and adding our Cricut decal to the top. This is a really fun project. I love how it turned out. Of course, you can customize the colors to anything you like. This was originally for a Cricut summit that I was a part of, so you may have seen it there, but I am sharing it with you now here. So any language about being part of the Cricut summit, we are now part of the universal YouTube universe. So just keep that in mind. But overall, the project was too cute not to share, and I hope you enjoy it. If you make it, leave me a comment down below. But for now, we're gonna hop right into Cricut Design Space, where I'm going to show you how to design the cut files, cut the project, pour the resin, add the vinyl, the whole 9 yards. Let's get started. Once you are in Cricut Design Space, we're going to go to our shape panel and we are going to grab 2 circles. Now, these are going to be the back and the front layers of our sign. Because I want to cut a word out of these, we will do 2 layers, and it will first of all give us a really fun layered effect, but it will also give us the base for our vinyl letters, and if we want to pour a little resin, it will give us a place for that resin to go, which will be really fun. So once we've got our 2 layers, let's grab a text. And I want my sign to say gather. I've seen a lot of signs that say gather lately, and I don't know, I just think they're really cute. So that is my goal. You could really put almost anything that you want on here. I've seen some that say like welcome home or your last name with established, that kind of thing. All right, let's make sure that this is perfectly in the center before we start doing our offset. So because our word is very loopy, very scripty, it's got all these little cutouts, I don't want to actually cut that exact word out of my basswood. It would cut just fine out of vinyl, but it would be a little tricky for our knife blade, first of all. Second of all, I want a more layered look than that. So what we're going to do is take our word and we're going to create an offset. You'll see that it will give us this blue outline, and that is our preview of what the offset will look like. Now, the offset itself is fine, but all these little inside blue sections, those will be tricky for our Cricut to cut out. I'd rather just have the outline. So we're going to go ahead and just bump up that distance for our offset until there is no inside portions. We just have one large outside portion. Perfect. So now we will take our circle and our offset and we're going to slice them. Perfect. Delete the offset and the slice result, and we are left with our sliced offset in our back circle. So now this is going to cut one circle and our offset out of the piece here. And so let's go ahead and change this color really quick. If we layer these, you can see, we'll see that back layer through the front layer. That's the outside goal. But for cutting purposes, these are both going to be out of basswood, and then our text is going to be out of vinyl. Haha. Perfect. So let's go ahead and weld our text together because we don't want it to cut all these lines in between the letters. We want it to cut all the letters as one unanimous, continuous piece. Perfect. So now we have our back layer of our sign, our front layer, and our text. We are all set. Now, we are going to be using a Maker 3 today. You can use a Maker. I believe you can use an Explorer 3 to cut basswood, but I will put all of the machines that you can use to cut wood up on the screen here. We are going to be using a Maker 3 for today's project. Click Make It. This is going to be so cute. All right, so I'm going to select multiple ways because we are going to be cutting our basswood on a cutting mat, and we're going to be cutting our vinyl out of Smart Vinyl. Perfect. So we'll select on mat for our wood, and I'm going to put these 2 circles right in the middle. If the knife blade has a bit of an edge between what it's cutting and the edge, has more space, and it's not right up on the edge, it tends to perform well. And since these circles take up almost the entire square anyways, we're not going to be saving a lot of this outside vinyl, or basswood, I mean. This guy is perfect. All right, let's connect our Cricut, and we'll be halfway there. Okay, so now we are going to select basswood from our drop-down menu, and this is a first one. I was trying to look at the widths, but this is a Cricut brand basswood, and only the top one has that C, so there you go. All right, wants to calibrate our knife blade, so we'll go ahead and do that. But in the meantime, make note of all of the instructions here. When you're working with basswood, you always need to move your star wheels all the way to the right. They will make tracks on your wood. You want to make sure your material is no wider than 11 inches, and you want a strong grip mat with masking tape on all 4 sides. So let's go ahead. We will pop over to our actual machine. I will show you how to put your basswood on your cutting mat with your masking tape to move your star wheels over. All right, so like the computer says, when we are working with basswood, we want to put it on a strong grip mat. We want to really make sure it's bonded. I always use my brayer to firmly push it into place. And then we want to use a masking or a painter's tape to hold it down on all 4 edges. And that's because if this moves at all while it's cutting, you will have issues. Your knife blade is going to make multiple passes to get through this wood. You want to make sure it is fully secured to your cutting mat while it's doing those. So let's go ahead and put our second piece of basswood on a cutting mat so that you can see that entire process. So before we load our basswood, we of course need to move our cutting wheels all the way to the right. Our cutting wheels are star wheels. Dun, 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 dun. You can see on our cutting mat that this last inch, where on a normal sheet of vinyl we would have a 12 by 12 sheet, being 11 by 11, we have room for those star wheels in this slice. That's exactly what we wanted. Perfect. So we're going to go ahead and hit load. And now we're going to watch the magic. When it's cutting, it's going to do X number of passes. It'll tell us on the screen here shortly. Before you hit next project, we are going to check our cut. And if it needs more, if it's not cut all the way through, you can keep doing additional passes until it's finished. Hit go, and it's going to tell us how many passes we need for our circle. The circle is going to be quite simple, so hopefully it'll go pretty quickly. There's one pass. All right, so 1 of 14 passes. It says it's going to take 3 to 7 minutes, so. All right, so it's done all of its passes. It says right on the screen, check your cut. Without removing the mat, confirm that your cut went all the way through. And if it hasn't, make sure you hit another pass. So we're gonna just see if this will pop out or not, because it's a pretty simple cut. Okay, so down here, it hasn't cut all the way through. Let's do another pass. Cut everywhere, but right here where it's so close. When I was placing my mat, my circle, you can see it's missing a sliver right here because I placed it in the middle of my 12 by 12, not in the middle of an 11 by 11. So that is definitely my user error. Don't do that. But I think short of that, it cut perfectly everywhere else. So go ahead and eject it. Hopefully, if I need to do a little bit of a surgery, I can. We will double check before we cut our second piece that it is right in the middle of that 11 by 11 square. I don't know if y'all can hear, but it just started pouring rain. Now, if we need a perfect circle, we could cut a new circle. But since this is going to be our back layer, and these pieces of basswood are not exactly super inexpensive, we're going to go ahead and just let that live. It'll be perfectly imperfect. Being on this back layer, it won't be noticeable once the entire sign is finished and hanging on the wall. All right, I'm going to turn this over and peel the mat back so that if anything's not sliced through, it will not break. Ta-da! And now we could put our second piece on here, but it's already prepped and ready to go. You can see that except for that one spot, it is perfect. Just don't want to do too much damage. It should pop right out. All right, let me grab my second piece and we will make sure it's in the right spot. Ta-da! So you can see that it is literally just a smidge of a smidge. At a distance, you really can't even tell. We'll put that at the bottom. And being in the back, you'll never even notice. But I did move the circle over for our second layer because obviously we want the top layer to be perfect. I mean, we want both layers to be perfect, but human error exists. that is what it's supposed to do. Yes. Dun, 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 dun. So now we have our 2 pieces of our sign. We have the back and the front. Dun, dun, dun. These are going to be so cute. I cannot wait. So, as you can see, we've got both layers. We can paint these. We'll pour our resin inside, and then we'll do our vinyl over the top. If you want to skip the resin portion, you can just put your vinyl right on that back layer of basswood. But, haha, why would you not resin when you can resin? So let's go ahead and get these painted, and then we will start our resin pour. But at least we've got our basswood done. Let's go ahead and cut out our vinyl while we've got our Cricut out, and then we will move on. All right, y'all. So I decided, once I looked at all of the things I was working on, that this adhesive foil would look better on our overall finished project than the white smart vinyl that I was thinking of. I think that this will be easier to read our words than the white on the resin. So instead of a smart vinyl, I grabbed this roll of adhesive foil and I popped it on a cutting mat. It says gather now. That was the goal. So now all we need to do is weed this, and we will be done with our Cricut portion. So because it is reflective, it's a little harder to weed with the camera, but it's not difficult. Just get in here with our weeding tool. We'll weed any section that we don't need in the overall design. So all these little portions, the outside, anything that does not work for our word. All right, we will set this aside, and then once our sign is finished, we will be able to put it on top of our resin. Or, like I said, if you're not doing resin, once your sign is painted, you can put it directly onto the painted basswood. Or I suppose if you don't want to paint the basswood, you could just put this directly on the basswood. Any option. In the meantime, let's go ahead and glue this baby together. All right, so I'm going to use a bit of wood glue to glue these together. I think that will be the easiest thing to do. So let's get this lined up. Make sure it's lined up all the way around. For now, I'm going to go ahead and lay some heavy books on this, and then we will paint it, and I will see y'all in 24 hours to actually resin this bad boy. All right, so our sign is painted and we are all set. We are going to start on our resin. Now I'm going to go ahead and mix up quite a bit of resin, so I'm doing several projects, but you're not going to need that much resin for our sign. You could probably mix about 50 milliliters, split it between all of your colors, and you'll be good to go. For our resin today, we are going to be using Maker Epoxy, which is perfect when you are doing any kind of craft projects. So the main goal for this is you're going to be using equal parts of part A and part B. So whether you're doing 50 milliliters or 500, we'll use equal portions. So 25 of part A and 25 of part B, or 250 of A and 250 of B. I use these larger bottles with the pumps because when you're pouring in large portions, it's a lot easier than pouring them by hand. But if you're doing small projects, say this is your first resin project, you may get just the smaller bottles and use smaller portions. Now, because I'm doing a big pour, I'm using a big silicone cup to mix in with a big silicone spoon. You can use smaller cups and even popsicle sticks or disposable cups. I have quite a few of these. Even one of these cups would be more than enough to fill in the gap on our gather sign that we're going to be doing. So right now we should be, yep, right around 50 milliliters. So for our summit sign, that is more than enough. Go ahead and mix it. You'll mix for 3 minutes, stirring evenly, scraping the bottoms and the side. But like I said, I am working on several projects, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep going, and I will be back in a second once this guy is all mixed up. Now, if this is your first resin project, make sure you are safe. As far as resins go, this one is safe, but all resins are toxic to some degree, so you'll want to take the proper safety precautions, and then you're good to go. All right, it has been about 4 minutes. We're gonna go ahead and pop all the bubbles that come to the top. And now we're going to set this aside for just a second. The bubbles will keep rising to the top, and we're gonna get our colors ready. Let's do some pink. These are just craft paints, acrylic craft paints. You want to do about 10% paint to resin. You can do a little more, but it will start to mix kind of funny. And while you can use all kinds of mica powders and alcohol inks, there are all kinds of different things you can use to mix into your resin. You do want to probably test most of what you're using. Not all craft paints will bond properly with your resin, while things like mica powder or alcohol inks that are mint, that are made to mix with resin, will do a better job. This is a Tester's brand paint. It is a craft paint. You use it really for hobby things like model trains. My dad's huge on model trains. I grew up making little houses and things with him. And so this, I mean, it just gives you the best, most metallic look. Love it. I'm going to do a little bit of this metallic rose gold. You always want to make sure you mix or shake. As pretty as this paint is for most projects, I don't like how it looks in resin, and that is another thing to learn, is that the paint will not necessarily look the same it does once it's cured in resin as it does in the bottle. So before you do a huge piece, always best to test. All right, we are also going to be using these rose gold flakes, but we'll be adding those right to our design, as well as probably into some of the clear at the end. So I'm not going to do an individual cup for these. We can always add more resin to the cups, so it's always best to kind of start with a moderate amount and then move on. Now let's stir these up. You can add more paint if you need it. The more paint you add, the more solid or opaque that color is going to be. The less paint you add, the more transparent it will be. So, start with our pink. We're just going to pour it in the middle here, little strips. We want all the colors to kind of work together. Now make sure you don't drip any on the outside as we go. It's my #1 problem I have when pouring resin. This guy, so I've got room. Our white and our pink are going to be our 2 main colors here, mainly because they're neutrals and that they're not going to compete with each other. They're going to give us a nice soft background for our words, our gather signs. So we're going to do a lot of white and a lot of pink. And do just a little bit of this metallic rose gold. Did get a smidge right here, so clean that up before it cures. Now this guy is our most potent, and he is strong. So before we do that, let's go ahead, heat this up. Get all the bubbles out of there. Now I'm just going to use a silicone I guess stir stick. It's like a spatula. And we're going to just push that resin all the way to the edges. We're going to make sure it's touching across the whole piece. That way everything starts to blend. Nice and pretty. Now you could do this all solid, just one color. You could do glitter. You could do whatever you like. I kind of like this marble kind of texture, granite kind of texture, stone with more 3-dimensional pieces. Like my trays, I'll add gems and diamond kind of looking bits and pieces. So it looks like you just opened a geode. Like this, we're just going to kind of help blend together. Need some more pink in here. It's okay if things mix. They will start to. That's all right. We like that. Gives us more interesting colors. We just don't want it to mix so much that it looks dirty. Perfect. We need some more pink, so let's add that. You can see we're still pretty low beyond the edges, which is our main goal. We don't want to go over the edge here. There we go. We did get some right here. I told you I was really good at that. Let's clean that up before it sets. We can always sand it a little bit later if we need to. So now our copper. So like I was saying, this is our most potent color. So we want to do just thinner strips of this. We don't necessarily want it to be as prevalent. I was trying to think of the word. Let's continue that. Perfect. All right, that's enough of that. And now we're going to finish it off right by our copper with some clear copper flakes. And we just need a little bit of this because you can see it is starting to hit the edge on the one side, which A means it's not as level right here as I'd like, but B, that it will go over if we do too much. So we're just gonna use our spatula and kind of spoon it in a little. There we go. A little up here. The clear copper always works so pretty with that copper leaf. It like makes it spread out and react prettily. There we go. Now, like I said, you can do as much or as little of this as you like. You'll need to start doing more layers if you want to have more space. So for me, I'm gonna kind of let it all flow downhill just a little. Perfect. And now we will leave this to cure for 24 hours before putting our vinyl on top. And then we will put some ribbon and kind of finish it off. Oh, that's pretty. When I set it to cure, I will probably put something like this right under here and then make sure it's level across the top. Otherwise, if it's not level, if this side is going down, it will keep flowing down. All our color will end up at the top. We don't want that. So, all right. See y'all tomorrow to finish this baby up. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so this is all cured. You can see it's pretty smooth with the top here. It is a little lower on the bottom, so we could have done a smidge more, but honestly, I'm okay with that. You don't want it to go over on the top, and it's pretty straight across on the top. So I love, this is why we pour that clear with the little bit of flakes right on top of that copper. You see how it gives this like smoky effect and kind of just pushes the copper out. So pretty. So we're going to go ahead and use some transfer tape to move our gather over. Alright, so now we're going to line this up, and again, this outside portion is an offset of this word, so it will fit perfectly in here. We just have to get it lined up. Once we get it right where it needs to be, go ahead and put it down. And now we're going to press from the middle, and we're going to smooth it out so there's no air bubbles, so there's no gaps, so that it lays perfectly where it's supposed to. Oh, that's pretty. I was worried about the copper of the adhesive foil and the copper in our resin, like competing and making it hard to read. But I think it's going to play nicely. Do you know how disappointed I would be if we got all the way to this step and it was hard to read? Which I have done before, since I tend to like the same colors. Oh, that's pretty. All right, so now I think I want to add a bow to this, and I'm not sure if I want to add a bow to the bottom or to the top or maybe to the very, very top. Let me grab some ribbon and we'll play around. All right, so I decided to go with drilling 2 holes and putting a ribbon through the top because I wanted something to hang my little sign from. And then I just added a quick little bow to the top. I didn't want a bow that had tails that would hang down and obstruct our gather sign. So I went with this cute little tail bow up top. I just cut a bunch of tails and hot glued them together. So easy peasy, lemon squeezy. I love how it looked. I wanted just white and simple neutral for the background so the resin and the gather can really shine. I am going to go hang this up. I hope you liked it. If you did like it, I am offering a special coupon code just for y'all for being part of this summit to come join me over at my Resin for Beginners class. I will help walk you through 10 different techniques that you can use to make any resin project you like We will do 10 different projects so that you will have things to keep, to give as gifts, to make for friends. But the main focus is all those techniques so that you can learn to mix resin, to add colors, to add stones, to make a tray like I was talking about earlier. So if that interests you, come over, join me in class. I would love to have you, and we can make plenty more resin projects together. In the meantime, there are so many other amazing Cricut Design Space projects here at the summit today. You probably need to go check those out. And if you want to watch these videos longer, make sure you grab that VIP All Access Pass so that you can keep watching the videos long after the summit is over. Make sure you really wring every last drop of goodness out of these classes. I cannot wait to see what the other presenters are making. And honestly, I just want to go make more signs. So maybe welcome home next. Maybe everyone's getting one of these for Christmas this year. Shh, don't tell my mom. Thank you so much for joining me. I would love to see you over in my class, but if not, I will see you around the internet. Bye.